January 17th, 1950, something Boston. The year doesn't matter, the cold does. Snow crusted in gutters, dock fog rolling in slow, streetlights throwing long yellow bones across cobblestone. Inside the Brink secure depository, the world was routine. Guards on rotation, doors on schedule, money and metal. At 7:27 p.m., the counting room was locked. At 7:30 p.m., the back alley door, the one no one was supposed to use, opened. 6 figures in identical dark clothing slid inside. Rubber-soled shoes, navy pea coats, chauffeur caps dropped low. Each man wore the same thing, a rubber Halloween mask, blank, pale, unblinking. Their hands were gloved, their voices, almost none. In under half an hour, they would leave with cash, securities, and payroll envelopes worth over $2 million in today's money. The guards would be tied up, but alive. The alarms would stay quiet, and Boston would wake up to headlines about the crime of the century. But tonight, there were no headlines, just a ticking wall clock and the sound of tape wrapping around a guard's mouth. Perfect crimes don't fail at the scene. They fail in the years afterward. The job didn't start with the vault. It started with Eddie Marino, 40s, lean, always in an overcoat even indoors. Former truck hijacker turned methodical planner. People said he never raised his voice, never drank on a job, never trusted luck. Eddie's rule was simple. We don't beat the vault. We beat the people. He'd been watching the depository for almost 2 years. Not the safes, the habits. When the money arrived, when the guards smoked, which side door never quite latched, which employee got lazy on Fridays. He wasn't looking for weakness in the steel. He was looking for weakness in humans. He built a crew the same way. Not the toughest guys, the quietest ones. Men who could follow orders. Men who owed money. Men who could keep their mouths shut because the world never asked them to talk. But Eddie had one flaw. The same one that kills every big job mastermind. He thought fear would always be enough.
Storm is coming.
Post-war Boston was a perfect place for a cash robbery. Factories were paying workers in envelopes. Bookies were moving money through fronts. Dockyards were running overtime. Armored depots like Brink's held everything. Payroll, bar money, union dues, private vaults. Security was modern for the time. Steel doors, multiple locks, alarm circuits, signed keys, two-man rules. But the people who designed it didn't imagine a crew in matching uniforms with their own keys. Outside, the cops were still solving crimes with notebooks, payphones, and a good memory. No CCTV, no DNA, no digital trail. If you didn't leave your name on the floor, they didn't know you'd been there. To Eddie, it was a math problem. A place with too much money, run by people with too much routine, in a city with too little imagination. The result, robbery possible. For a long time, the job was impossible. The Brink's building used specialized cylinder locks and changed combinations regularly. That meant you could be the best safecracker in the world, and it wouldn't matter. Then came the break. One of Eddie's spotters, Tommy Doors Valente, a wiry, nervous locksmith who did side work for bars, managed to tail a Brink's employee to a back entrance. In a moment of sloppiness, the employee hung his keyring on a rack while talking with a clerk. Tommy didn't steal the keys. He traced them. He made wax impressions, fast, pocket, out. That night, in a rented garage, they poured metal duplicates. Not one key, several. The outer door, the stairwell, the office grill. Now the job went from someday to we're doing this. Eddie gathered the crew in a back room above a bowling alley. Blueprints on the table. A big wall clock in the back that he'd rigged to tick louder than normal, conditioning them to think in minutes, not bravado. We go in dressed like we belong. We talk like we belong. We leave like we were never there. The heist was on. This wasn't smash and grab. This was theater. For weeks, the men practiced in an empty warehouse with taped outlines on the floor to match the Brink's interior. Where the counting room was, where the guard would be, where the vault cage stood. They ran drills with a metronome, 25 minutes, 24, 23. The preparations were meticulous with masks on, gloves on, and bags ready. There would be no names. Eddie had another rule. If you talk wrong. That meant anyone listening later, a guard, a reporter, an agent, wouldn't know who was Italian, who was Irish, who was from Southie or the North End. Identities blurred. Equipment was chosen for silence, including soft-soled shoes for their feet, electrical tape for wrists and mouths, and rope instead of chains. They also carried short sawed-off revolvers, not for shooting, but for control. They rehearsed the scariest moment. When a human realizes he's outnumbered, Eddie made them practice the calm, the tone, the way to say, no one wants to die over someone else's money. The night approached. Perfect plans bend when ego walks in. The original crew was 6. Then it became 7. Then one of the drivers said he wanted in on the count, not just the car. Then a cousin, who could be trusted, got added. Every man added meant one more mouth later. Eddie hated it, but he needed specialists. The key man, the inside watcher, the driver, the bagman, and the muscle to control the room. He kept repeating, the job isn't the hard part. 6 years is the hard part. They didn't get it. To them, robbery was a night. To him, it was half a decade of silence until the statute of limitations ran out. Worse, 2 men in the crew didn't like each other. Red Kiley, loud, impulsive, and Bobby Niles, the quiet one with a temper. Eddie clocked it. Friction. He knew it could detonate, just not when. 7:15 p.m. Snow flurries, people heading home, traffic light. A panel truck rolled down Prince Street. No markings. Headlights low. It stopped in the alley behind the depository. 2 stayed in the truck. 6 stepped out. They looked like delivery men. That was the point. Key in. Turn. No alarm. Inside, they moved fast. 1 held the stairwell. 2 went straight for the counting room. Eddie and Bobby found the guards. Don't turn around. Hands where I can see them. Nobody gets hurt. The guards, shocked, complied. They were frisked, disarmed, taped. 1 tried to look up. Eddie tapped him on the head with the butt of his gun. In the office, cash sat in canvas bags, ready for transfer. Stacked, labeled. Money that wasn't missed yet. That was the genius of the timing. Take it before it's inventoried, and the chaos comes later. They moved like a machine, with 1 man cutting open extra bags, 1 tossing, 1 stacking near the exit, and 1 watching the hall. The whole time, the wall clock ticked loud over everything. 7:34, 7:38. Then came the only moment of real danger. A Brink's employee on an off-schedule walk came down the stairs. He wasn't supposed to be there. He froze. They froze. Eddie didn't shoot him. He did something smarter. Folded him into the narrative. On the floor. You saw nothing. This was 2 men, not 6. They tied him, sat him with the guards. Now the witnesses would tell different stories. 2, 4, 6 instantly muddying the investigation. 7:52 p.m. They were out. 30 minutes. No alarms. No shots. They loaded the truck and disappeared into a city that wasn't watching. The next morning, Boston howled. Newspapers called it the cleanest job in American history. The police commissioner was humiliated. Insurance companies panicked. The depository's management promised full cooperation. Everyone wanted blood. What did the crew do? They hid the money. Not in a bank. Not in one place. They broke it up. In apartments, attic ceilings, oil drums, a rented farmhouse outside the city. The negotiable securities were the problem. They couldn't just cash them. They needed fences, patient ones. Eddie laid down the law. We touched nothing for years. And here was the thing no one tells young criminals. Adrenaline doesn't last years. Bills do. 1 man had a girlfriend who wanted a car. 1 had gambling debts. 1 bragged in a bar, not about the robbery, about coming into money soon. Eddie could control a room with guns. He couldn't control time. From that night on, the enemy wasn't the police. It was paranoia. Big robberies don't get solved by genius detectives. They get solved because someone feels cheated. 2 years in, money's still mostly untouched. Red Kiley snapped. He said the split wasn't fair. He said he did more than the driver. He said it was stupid to sit on millions while living like a dock worker. Eddie reminded him of the rule. Red didn't care. So Red went where all angry criminals go when they want leverage. To someone worse. A small-time hood, then a bigger one. Then, eventually, word reached a federal ear. Not a confession. Not a signed statement. A rumor. You're wasting time on bank clerks. This was pros. North End guys. Look at Marino. The FBI, which, until then, had nothing but footprints and a lot of embarrassment, finally had a direction. That was all they needed. Once suspicion has a name, surveillance becomes easy. Phones tapped, bars watched, associates subpoenaed. A disgruntled ex-girlfriend talked about a garage with boxes. A landlord remembered men coming late with no labels. A ticket agent reported a man trying to move bonds. Separately, nothing. Together, a shape. Agents traced one of the stolen securities trying to be laundered through a middleman. That middleman, staring at federal time, gave up a name, then another, then another. The arrests didn't happen in one epic raid. They happened slowly, insultingly. One man at his kitchen table, one on his way to work, one in a pool hall, humiliated. Eddie held out longest. He denied everything. Calm, polite, like a man who respected work, even federal work. But in court, something neither he nor anyone could plan for appeared. Testimony from inside the crew. Red, facing a long sentence, talked. Not just about the night, about the planning, the keys, the rehearsals, the masks. The jury didn't need to see the money. They just needed to see the pattern. The perfect heist had left fingerprints after all. Not on glass, on people. The Brink's job, even in this cinematic version, changed 2 things in American crime. First, planning had to be human-proof, not just lock-proof. You could fake keys, uniforms, even routines. But if you couldn't keep 8 men quiet for 6 years, the caper was doomed from day one. Second, law enforcement learned to wait. Instead of chasing robbers down alleys, they sat back and watched them destroy each other. Follow the bonds, follow the girlfriends, follow the debts. It also revealed something about professional criminals in mid-century America. They weren't movie gangsters. They were working-class men who saw a hole in a system and thought, for once, they could be the ones taking, not the ones being taken from. For a moment, they were right. We returned to the vault. Not the night of the robbery, years later. The room is lit differently now, brighter. Extra locks, extra guards, framed newspaper clippings on the wall like scar tissue. Boston's biggest robbery. The city learned, the bank learned. But somewhere else, in an attic, in a wall, in a field drum no one ever found, some of that money is still sitting, useless, unspendable. Aging like the men who once risked everything to take it. The narrator closes, cool and dry. They thought the hardest part was getting in. It wasn't. The hardest part was staying forgotten. And in the end, the thing they couldn't crack wasn't the vault. It was each other.